Tonight on the Night Team. One person has been injured in an officer-involved incident at a Clark County Nature Reserve. And a small college town is now forever changed after one of their own was found dead in his dorm room.
It's a small community. It's a small university. So everybody probably pretty well knows everybody.
What led to the hours-long lockdown of Campbellville University. And later,
it was just really important that I could be in a position to help other people heal.
A Shelbyville artist is using her talent and passion to share women's stories of trauma and healing. What led to her showcasing her own artwork? The WHAS11 Night Team starts right now. We start here tonight with some breaking news here on the Night Team. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Alex Dieterer. A man has been injured after he was shot by police at a Clark County Nature Preserve. According to Sergeant Stephen Wheelis with ISP, the Charlestown Police Department was called for a welfare check around 4:30 this afternoon. Around 5 tonight, officers located the car of the man they were looking for at the 9 Penny Branch Nature Preserve in Clark County. Officers were given information that the man was possibly armed. Officers from multiple agencies assisted, and they were able to find him on one of the trails at the Nature Preserve. The man was armed with a handgun. Sergeant Wheelis said an officer with Charlestown Police Department did fire at least one shot, and the suspect was hit. He was transported to U of L Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, and at this time, the suspect has not been named, and specific charges are still being worked out.
Now we're slowing down and really going to, make sure we conduct a thorough investigation, because one is we owe it to the family. Obviously, that has an injured family member. We owe it to them to provide answers, and we also owe it to the community. I mean, we're looking at a public place where a lot of families from this area probably come and use it, and it's a concern to them that something like this happens in their area.
No officers hurt in the incident. The Indiana State Police are investigating. New for you tonight, Indiana State Police have arrested 2 people wanted in connection with an early morning murder after an hours-long standoff this afternoon. Lawrence County sheriffs say around 5:30 this morning, they responded to Fort Ritner Road to reports of a shooting. When officers arrived on scene, they found a 21-year-old Kobe Stancomb had been shot. Police say Casey Brown and Bradley Harper were in a Jeep with Stancomb and a woman when the shots were fired that killed Stancomb. Brown and Harper then fled from the scene in the Jeep, allegedly firing multiple shots at the woman who was running from the Jeep. Around 12:30, the Jeep was located in the parking lot of a Huck's on Main Street in Paoli. When officers arrived, police say Harper immediately surrendered to them and was taken into custody. However, Brown refused to leave the Jeep. Indiana State Police SWAT team used several tactics to get Brown out of the car. However, police say after several hours, Brown pulled out a handgun and shot himself. Officers say Brown was then taken to U of L Hospital. Brown's condition at the hospital is unknown, but he is in police custody on charges of murder and attempted murder. We have more details for you tonight on a heartbreaking story out of Campbellsville. Police have arrested a man they believe is involved in a student's death. The student was found unresponsive in his dorm room this morning. Campbellville University was on lockdown for a couple of hours today. WHAS 11's Connor Steffen and photojournalist Aspen Hester were in Campbellsville. They have the latest details.
So we just need to keep the community as a whole in your prayers and thoughts.
A close-knit college.
You just don't see it that often.
Forever changed by the loss of one of its own.
We just need to keep in mind the families, both families.
The death of 18-year-old Campbellville University student Josiah Malachi Kilman led the campus to an hours-long lockdown Saturday.
There's a lot of parents who has children at the university, so just out of caution for them and a peace of mind.
On campus, not a single student in sight, but an abundance of police cruisers searching for 21-year-old Charles Escalera, who they believe murdered Kilman in his dorm room just after midnight Saturday.
Whether it's the suspect's family or the victim's family, there's no winners.
Campbellsville Chief of Police Shannon Wilson says police narrowed in on Escalera, shown here, early in the investigation.
We had a person of interest pretty quickly, within a couple hours. I would say.
Police spent the next 17 or so hours canvassing the area until Chief Wilson says a call came into dispatch from a local farmer living on the Taylor-Greene County line.
He had located a male in his barn while he was feeding, which he then in return called Greene County Sheriff's Department, and they contacted state police.
Police arrested Escalera around 5:45 Saturday. He now faces murder charges.
I would like to say that I'm very proud of every officer today. Of course, we're a smaller department. We had so many people to step up.
With Escalera now in custody at the Taylor County Detention Center, thousands on Campbellville University's campus begin grieving a life taken too soon. In Campbellsville, Kentucky, Connor Steffen, the WHAS11 night team, on your side.
In a statement, the university said, quote, "We have lost a student and our hearts are broken. During this devastating time, the continued safety of our students and the residents of our community are our primary concern. With consultation from local law enforcement, we will continue to implement every measure necessary to protect and support students and our community." It's Black History Month, and we are continuing to highlight moments that matter here in Kentuckiana. Today, Shelbyville artist Shakia Harris celebrated the opening of her special exhibition in the Smoketown neighborhood. Addie Hill and I share how Harris, as an artist, educator, and activist, encompasses her passions into her artwork.
I hope that people come into this space and they feel a little less alone, that they feel seen.
An art exhibit in the Epping District building filled with 43 oil paintings. All of the artwork inspired by the stories of 20 women. The artist, Shakia Harris, is using her gifts to tell their stories, stories of trauma and healing.
I feel like there's a piece of everyone in each of the paintings. I also hope that when people kind of find out more about how it came to be, they feel inspired and they just feel a bit of light in the dark, like it's possible. You just gotta, make it to the next day.
Harris says she wants to use her exhibit, Feel My Words, to encourage conversations on healing. Being on the other side of trauma herself, Harris feels compelled to challenge others to shift their perspectives and open themselves up to better understand their own journeys.
The collection itself was super impactful just because, given my history with trauma, it was just really important that I could be in a position to help other people heal. And so that was super meaningful, especially after I started to get more information about the women. I just felt like a huge weight on my shoulders, like I just wanted to do their stories justice.
Harris started making art a year ago when she was a special education teacher, just trying to make money for classroom supplies.
Sooner than later, I had my supplies paid for, and I was able to, turn that into something bigger.
Now, spreading the message that you can create your own destiny.
But I just really hope that people know that you don't have to have like a big art organization or curator to do it yourself. Like you can do it yourself and it still be quality and make other people happy.
You can find the special exhibit at the Epping District building.
William Pat Abel, Charlotte Abel, Delia Abel, Henry Abel.
More than 1,600 enslaved people buried in unmarked graves were read aloud, allowing them once again to be remembered. Deacon Ned Berghausen scoured through the St. Louis cemetery records and uncovered the names of 1,600 people buried in a small section towards the back of the St. Louis cemetery. The cemetery is the final resting place for more than 50,000 Catholics, and even in death were segregated.
I always find myself in cemeteries, but there's always a field where Black people are buried in mass graves, or they're bricked over or covered over or erased.
I think it's also a first step in a longer process. It's part of a bigger story in our country. There's been a process of rediscovering Black cemeteries and working to preserve them. And I think we're a part of that bigger story here in this space.
Berghausen is working with local activist and nationally recognized poet Hannah Drake, who we just heard from, to restore some of the dignity that was denied to the people buried there. JCPS students were in the spotlight today, sharing their ideas on ways to solve community-wide issues at the 4th Annual Justice Fest. The Kentucky Derby Festival Foundation Justice Fest showcases the work of 13 student groups from elementary school to high school. It gives students an opportunity to highlight their projects outside of the classroom and in the community. Matthew Kaufman is a teacher at Seneca High School and co-founder of Justice Now. He says students have been working on their projects since the fall, and today they were given the chance to present the projects to community stakeholders.
I often talk about students being the most important stakeholder in education, but often the least consulted. So this flips the script on that. Students have been developing projects that address equity issues or injustices in our community, in our city, the wider world. And so it's about acceptance and equal rights for people. It's about educational justice. It's about community investment and reform. And it's about environmental justice.
The stakeholders of the program today were community and business leaders, teachers, and advisors that were chosen to give the student groups insight, mentorship, and ideas to further their work.